once again, I am Diana Catherine Plopa. We are here with another installment of Indie Reads TV, brought to you by Pages Promotions. Today, I am in the studio with the most amazing Bill Matthews. He is a marketing expert. He's going to help us understand why it's important for authors to have a marketing plan, why we should think about the next step before we even stop writing the book. So let's get right into it. Thank you very much, Bill, for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Diana. I really appreciate it as well.
So give us a little bit of a touchstone on your background. Give me an idea of what got you started in marketing and why 20 some odd years later you're still at it.
Yeah. They won't let me stop.
What's the draw?
I started in the late 80s and early 90s in college studying marketing, advertising, and psychology, and got it right into marketing and advertising because there's people everywhere, so I can use psychology anywhere.
Sure.
But marketing is a very big and broad label for hundreds of different kinds of programs and tasks and activities, and it's taken me across the globe and back again. I don't know which part I like better, program inception and design or graphics or the research and statistics. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to the data. I brought some. You'll hear a little bit later.
Great.
I like the diversity. I'm the kind of person who wants to go to work and always have a different challenge and surprise, and it's a limitless rubric of things in marketing.
Yeah, I would imagine, just with the little bit that I've seen, you have a different day every day. There's no monotony involved in your job whatsoever.
Nope. That's the constant, is that there's no monotony. Yep, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
The only change that's constant is that change is coming. So.
Yeah, right. We say that about global warming too, but you know.
Yes.
So let's talk about this idea. I've run into a lot of authors. I've been doing publishing since 2010, 2011, and I run into a lot of individual authors and indie published authors and small press authors. They don't think about the marketing plan. Mm-hmm. They think about, I'm going to write the book. If I write it, people will find it. They will read it. I will be a New York Times bestselling author. Life will be grand, right? So they don't think about all the work that goes into it. And when I talk to them, I say, you know what? Writing the book is the easy part. It's the marketing part that's really the bulk of the work. Why do you think it is that an individual author or an entrepreneur might not understand that part of it?
Well, I don't know why individuals, I don't know every author, why they may not is, and I'm not an individual author, I'm not an author, is that it's probably a passion they're drawn to, and passion can be business. I'm passionate about mine, but it isn't always. One thought I had in thinking about today's discussion was for individual authors to think of themselves as small businesses.
Sure.
No different than a local restaurant, or you're going to open a pizzeria.
And that's exactly what I try to impress on them as well, is that, you may be writing a series of 17 novels based on the Greek gods and goddesses, as my editor is working on right now.
Okay.
But it's still going to be a business. You still have to do the work behind, at some point you have to separate passion and hobby from business to publication and marketing and distribution and all the stuff that goes with small business.
The business of the business.
If you want the books to succeed.
Sure.
So I know that big companies, this is at the forefront of everything they do, product placement in film and television, and how can we get our stuff
machine.
out there,
It's been around
right?
for hundreds of years for big business.
Exactly,
right.
yeah. So
100 years, yeah.
So one of the things that when we were talking about this the last couple of weeks in preparation for the show, one of the things you were talking about was consistency, and how important consistency is. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Everyone who sees this, you, me, everybody in America probably has a jingle in their head. If I asked you to go through and pick a jingle, and it doesn't change, the branding and the identity of the products that we see every day do not change over time because they're building momentum. So those steps you listed off from inception through distribution, some of them are one-time efforts, some that need an initial startup and then shepherding, and some need constant. Building a brand and getting the word out and building loyalty, so that you are 17 books you referenced.
Right.
The first few are going to be really hard to get the message out. And then as they keep coming, if you've built that snowball at the top of the hill, as it rolls down the hill, it just gets bigger and bigger through consistency. So,
well, and I think that's also true of people who are only going to write one book. You know, as you
Absolutely.
know, I
Sure.
have this wacky notion to write one book in each of the 33 major genres, which some people have labeled me nuts. But I'm doing it anyway.
That's a lot of writing.
Yeah, but there's a different marketing plan for every book.
Absolutely, and that's a terrific. We could dovetail right into that, but yes, there is, because when you write your book, it's your idea, it's your passion, and you're thinking about what you want from your book, as I understand it. Then you have to figure out who's going to want my book, who's going to want what I have to offer, and then who are they? And there is a plethora, there's a wealth of free information from the big companies, who then have data and analytics, big companies analyzing market behavior, consumer spend, literally seconds on the internet, and you can find out that 64% of 18 to 29-year-olds have Instagram accounts. And if that is the fit, if that's who's going to be using your book, well, maybe you should think about using Instagram, and you can communicate to 64% of them.
So that's a really great tie-in to our next topic here, which is social media to drive brand awareness.
I'm glad. I'm not sure I was going in any sort of order there, but that was intuitive. I'm impressed. That was really good. Yeah, there are so many avenues. Right.
So talk about it. There are so many different. And I don't even know if I have all of the social media brands up here, but there are so many different ones out there. I tend to focus primarily on Facebook because it's the one I'm most comfortable doing. And I was told, if you're going to do social media, be comfortable doing it.
Ones. Right.
Right. So do we have to be on all of them? Is there a guidebook that says how you should manage your social media, or and not necessarily a guidebook? What I guess I'm asking is, social media is enormous and it's very powerful. How much attention do we have to pay to social media?
Selecting your social media goes back to understanding who your market segment is, which means you have to go back and understand what your book is and who's going to like your book and who's going to want to buy it. And then you wouldn't select something like Instagram if your book was a market segment of 90-year-olds. They don't I don't know any 90-year-olds who have Instagram. Maybe some do, but you wouldn't want to reach them via Instagram because that's not where they are. You want to go to the place they are, and there's tons of information around age and demographics and income level to find out what is their purchasing pattern, what is their buyer behavior. All of it readily available, easy research to do.
And authors love research. So is this?
That's good.
I was going to ask you. I didn't want to interrupt, but I was going to ask you, as a lowly little creative writer person, can I just jump on the internet and find this information to help me scoot myself along? Or should I really seriously think about hiring somebody like you to help me navigate the waters?
I think you have to know yourself. Anyone does. There's a possibility that you must hire someone, and there's a possibility that you can completely do it on your own. Everybody's going to be different. The information's out there, but what you find, that's just the beginning. Because once you've determined, let's say you've done extensive research and you've looked at similar titles and similar genres and everything lines up that you're in that 18 to 29-year-old bracket, and you've decided to use Instagram, well, that's the beginning of the story. And even if all of that was 100% correct, then you have to do it. And Instagram has all kinds of rules, and the average Instagram user, just anybody on the street, has 150 followers. To become the very beginning of what they call an influencer, you got to have 10,000.
Wow.
And over 15,000, and
I
then
don't
you're
even
a
know
player.
10,000 people.
That's the beautiful thing. Well, when
I can't imagine knowing 10,000 people.
When a major automotive manufacturer puts a commercial on television, they don't know anyone who's watching that commercial. Instagram is that avenue for you, or can be. Facebook can be used that way. All of the social media, they don't know who's watching the television, whether they know them or not. Their message is getting through. The awareness is getting through. Let me make an analogy, because I love this. You can dial it way back to the late 70s, maybe early 80s. There's a shampoo commercial where someone uses shampoo, and they tell two friends, and each of them tell two friends.
I remember that.
And each of them tell them two friends. How often do you talk to your best friend? Or your top two best friends? And you don't have to answer me, but it might be once every 2 weeks. We all get busy.
Yeah.
Maybe at this
sure.
stage in our careers and our lives. So it's going to take me 2 weeks to tell someone I found an amazing book. And then it'll take 2 weeks for them to tell their next best friend, and so on and so on.
Social
which I believe is
media
from
expedites that process.
So if I had 15,000 people at one time, and they're looking for me, or they're already following me, it's the snowball effect, though, because you don't start with 10,000 or 5,000 or even
Right.
4,000. You
Right.
start with 0, and you work your way up. And that's the consistency, because people want to see things that are new on social media. People want to see visual things, so Facebook has all kinds of media options.
Well, and
Instagram. Go on.
and as I understand it, I mean, as I've been told, and I've worked really hard to figure this stuff out. I certainly don't know it all, but I'm trying to figure it out as I go. And what I was told was, don't make it all about selling. Make it about engagement and getting people interested in things that you're interested in, and then maybe they will say, "Oh, she wrote a book. Maybe I'd be interested in that book." Is that the appropriate mindset?
Yeah, I don't think selling is the right thing to do. I think that even on any commercial, they're not trying to sell you a vehicle or a soda pop or pick your product. They're telling you about the features and what the benefits are.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about the book and tell me why it's good. And if I'm in your demographic, it's gonna ring true with me, and I'm gonna go acquire the book or the car or the soda pop or whatever.
Right.
Don't tell me I should buy it. Tell me what it is, and I'll decide whether or not I should buy it.
That's
and
great.
If I like it and it's a match, I'll follow you, or I'll buy it, or the snowball begins.
I really like that idea of giving the consumer the power in the decision.
They always do. They always have the power. Yeah.
But I mean, acknowledging that
absolutely.
in your marketing program.
Well,
I think that's a strong key feature that I think a lot of entrepreneurs and especially authors are missing.
I don't know everybody, but potentially.
Yeah.
I think it's a very exciting time, though, to find that rubric. I did some basic research on some numbers, and so here's why you have to be unique and consistent. And I think we've already talked about this. The U.S. consumer gets 4,000 to 5,000 ad messages a day. We don't even know it. In this room, there's 8 in front of me right now.
Right.
Between 2003 and 2012, leisure reading declined 30% in the United States. Things were on a downturn for a little over 10 years.
Right. Yeah, we've been struggling with that.
And then in 2018, 695 million printed books were sold in the U.S. It's on the upswing again.
But that's a lot of competition.
That's a lot of competition. So you have to do something. And there's more competition. This is great news because we're on the upswing. In fact, there were 156% growth in indie ISBNs since 2012. And
that makes me very happy.
Is that amazing? And for the first time in history in 2018, there were over 1 million unique titles for indie books.
1 million? Is
over
that
1 million?
Is that countrywide or is that worldwide?
I believe that one is worldwide.
That's amazing.
But why not think worldwide?
Well, sure.
Yeah,
I sold a book in Japan. Yay.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's an exciting time. It's a time we're coming out of what was a downturn. Your industry is changing. Actually, indie bookstores themselves, there are 35% more than there were in 2019, just in the last 10 years than there were, previously. And this is the 5th consecutive year of consistent growth for indie titles. So
this is the time to do it. If you're going to do it, this is the time to do it.
More people are buying, more people are reading than in the past almost 20 years, but also more people are writing.
Yeah.
So you have people seeking your product, the features of it, will they like it or not, and they're willing to buy it. They just broke record numbers last year.
Sure.
But they don't know about it, maybe.
Right. So our next thought is email lists and links, gaining accessibility to your content.
Sure.
I hear all the time how important an email list is in any business, because it's as it's been explained to me, and I've experienced this, is that your email list are the people who want to hear from you. They wouldn't sign up if they didn't want to hear from you. So talk a little bit about, from a marketing perspective, outside of just these are people who want to hear from you, why is an email list critical for somebody like an author?
Sure. For anyone, especially an author, wanting to communicate the message, I think the first thing to understand is it's a dialogue between you and your customers, the people on your list, the people following you on Instagram or Facebook or any of the social medias, the people coming to your book signings. but it's a dialogue that they, the consumer, control. There's always a, please unsubscribe button at the bottom of all the emails outbound, right? But everyone who stays does want to hear from you. They're putting their hand up and they want to have that dialogue. They want to hear from you. It may seem one-sided because they're not responding to the emails, or they're not commenting on your Instagram posts or your Facebook posts, but books are selling. They want to experience you. They want that relationship. So an email list is important. Having an opt-out function is important because those that
having
remain,
an opt-out is the law. Let's just say
legal,
that right there.
But it's important because you now have a more targeted effort. And the people who do interact with you and have a two-way dialogue, they're going to share some information about themselves with you, and that's going to grow your numbers for sales as well as your list.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't tell you how important it was for us at the bookshop to have a vibrant list.
Absolutely.
That's how we got people in the shop for events and such. So,
Absolutely.
The next topic on our list was video. That's that human connectivity. We're sitting right here in this lovely studio at CNM TV. I love it here. I love that they give us the outreach. I love that they're making it so accessible for me to reach people that normally I wouldn't be sitting in their living rooms.
Absolutely.
Video is amazing. It has that true connectivity. How can we as authors perhaps utilize that tool more effectively? I mean, I've seen book trailers.
Sure.
Sometimes those work. Sometimes they don't. What else might you recommend that we do utilizing YouTube and video?
I think once you go through some of those initial steps about defining your market segment, who are they, where are they, and how do they want to be communicated to, start thinking about your message and who you are and what your books are and what you want out of your books, what you personally want out of them, and communicate that. Some people like to read tweets, right, in a certain number of characters. Some want it on Facebook. Some want to see it in video. It brings the human touch to the story. Unless you're writing a really inhuman book or you're going for that, then don't do that. Or if you're using a pen name, clearly don't do that. But it allows that dialogue to have a deeper and richer experience. That's why they use spokespeople.
Sure, yeah.
Tom Hanks can sell me anything.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no question.
Yep.
Ebook formats.
Accessibility. So let's pretend you've made it through the hardest part. You've finished your novel. Then you've figured out your market segmentation, where they are and how to reach them. You've got a video up and you've done the communications through multiple channels. You've got your email list going and people want it. Some are going to want it in print. Some have specific tablets that require a specific file format.
Right.
Some do not. Making sure you're accessible through all channels is important. Not required, but it's probably not a lot of work if you set that up at inception, if you design it from the get-go that way.
Right.
Be available and accessible and easy.
My thinking is, why would you shoot yourself in the foot by not offering it?
Right.
One of the stats I saw said something like 48% of readers read electronically.
And I saw that's true.
That's a large spectrum of the reading population.
There was also a big report a couple of months ago that says more and more people are seeking print and the indie bookstores to manage their screen time.
Yes.
You walk through any town in America and everyone's staring at their cell phones. They want the time away. They want the solace. It's almost therapy to hold that printed book. I know readers who will only read, so do you, a printed book. So that's going both ways. But the market is expanding. The numbers are bigger than ever. So why not capture, or at least look into, what would it take to have all accessibility, all options available?
Ebooks are such an inexpensive opportunity.
Oh, for the author?
It doesn't, for an author, it doesn't cost anything. I mean, there's a small investment to create it, but after that, you can replicate it as many times as you want, and it doesn't cost you anything. And you can reach a wider audience. Audiobooks are great, but they're so expensive. So I think ebooks are fabulous because they bridge that gap that is sometimes lost in demographic, especially in age demographics.
Sure.
Older people tend to read print. Younger people sometimes like a digital version. Right?
What was it, 48, you think you said?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but at the same time, I'm seeing people my son's age, your son's age, 20s and early 30s, that are drifting back to print books.
And they are.
Because they're so tired of looking at computer screens.
And they have to probably look at a computer screen for work, or most likely it's involved in their daily lives, or it's involved in their daily communications with their friends and family, and they're looking at the little 2, 3, 4-inch screens, 8-inch screens if you got the XL versions. There's something peaceful about print. I don't think it's dying at all.
Yeah, no, I agree
not
with
at
you.
all.
I
But
agree with you.
It's much quicker, and it's much more easy to replicate after that initial investment, the ebook.
So, live links in ebooks, expanding your backlist reach. Now, we as authors understand the term backlist. It means the stuff you've published 2,
Before.
3, 4 years ago.
Right.
Why is this an important thing to reach back to your backlist?
I think every book I've ever read that wasn't a first of a series, it was on the inside front cover, or maybe a few pages in. If I was on book 3, book 4, book 5, the backlist was in the print version. It was always there. So in fact, there'd be other series. I might be on book 7 of a 14-book series, and then it would list the author's other works that were unrelated to this particular storyline. They've been in print books, in my experience, for a long time. It gives them easy accessibility, especially if they're enjoying. They've already picked you. They've already picked your book. They heard your message and they aligned with it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be reading your book. They probably want more. Just make it as easy as possible.
Absolutely. Supply and demand. You know, we've heard about supply and demand since we were in high school.
Yes.
This
yes.
thing,
Economics 101.
Oh my gosh,
Right.
supply and demand, and okay, we get it.
Sure.
So, how does supply and demand work through exclusivity? I mean, it
Right.
seems to me that the words supply and demand and exclusivity are mutually exclusive.
No, I think that. No, I don't see it that way. This goes down into your product and pricing mix, and it leaves sort of your dialogue with your potential readers behind, your customers, your loyal fans. This goes into exclusivity and controlling the supply. Actually, create demand. There's 2 great examples. 1970s oil embargo. What happened to oil prices? There wasn't less oil. They just weren't giving it to us.
Okay.
And then another major branding organization that produced films for decades took those films and put them in a vault. And it was back in the VHS days. And you could buy them maybe once every 2 years, and you had a month. So if I wanted to see my childhood favorite movie, and I had my old VHS machine because beta had just gone away.
Right.
DVD wasn't here yet, and digital downloads didn't even exist.
That's right.
I had to wait a year and a half for the opportunity to buy them. And that did a couple of things. It controlled their costs. They could do large volume runs because they weren't e-books or downloads back then.
Right.
And then their distribution and all their sales came in a huge wave, and people were all ramped up for it. There was excitement that was created. So that level of control, you're reducing your cost in that example, and maybe in the print world, maybe not in the ebook world, but in the print world, certainly.
I can certainly see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then all of your distribution happens at one time. So that limits at least the time period where your headaches happen, and then you're past it and you move on. So I'm not suggesting anyone do that directly, but think about what is your supply and demand and your distribution. What's the availability, especially when you look at the backlist. If you have a lot of copies laying around, and I hate to hope no one does, make them available, and then start thinking about ways to get those out to people.
But you're talking about limiting availability to create desire, right?
It's situational. I don't know if everyone can do that. I don't know everyone's situation, absolutely.
Right.
But
that's
I don't know
definitely one of those things that they could do.
Off the top, yeah, absolutely. I don't know off the top of my head, what does a first edition of a very famous book cost today? I don't know.
Yeah, depending on what it is, hundreds.
Yeah, I don't
You
know.
know,
Something by
I
Tom
had-
Sawyer, let's say.
Yeah, I had a
Right.
gentleman who was in here. He had a copy. I think it was The Velveteen Rabbit. He has a bookshop in Berkeley, and it was like $225
Right.
for a first run edition, which is
So
wow.
But that's the same as the second and the third and the fourth. It's all the same. It's it's the collectible value. It's the perceived value. Okay, there's the Beanie Babies. There's the. I mean, this is not new. Look into what works for you. Everybody's environment and situation, inventory. How long is their backlist? Is this their first book? All of these are little components that have to be considered. Some very large components to think about what is right for your situation. There's a lot of different moving parts, and that's going back to why I like what I do. it's different every day.
Yeah.
Because the pieces keep changing.
Sure.
And every single author is going to have their own puzzle to build.
Yeah, it's a puzzle without edges.
The point is, yes, sometimes without a picture on it, it's tough. They're fishing.
Yeah.
The point is that they keep building. That's the most important thing. Here's a great failure in branding, or one of the best in history: New Coke. Remember New Coke?
Vaguely.
Right.
It's in the back of
The
my
Coca-Cola
head. It's
bottling
there
company
someplace.
changed the recipe in the very early 80s, and it was the most violent rebellion of consumers in history. And they brought it back. They got rid of New Coke, brought back the old recipe, and firmly established themselves at the time in sales for soda pop. Yeah.
Okay, so
either they made a mistake, or someone was very smart.
I'm
no one
thinking.
really knows what happened.
Yeah. I was just thinking, wow, wouldn't that have been interesting if that had been premeditated?
I'd love to think there are people that smart out there, but every situation is different. Just don't stop building the puzzle. Don't stop considering, and don't stop researching. I think you said in one of our conversations, authors love research.
Yeah, we love research.
There's a lot of material out there. People have been doing this for a very long time. The brand and lifestyle marketing, Jeep and Harley Davidson, for example, are some of the greatest lifestyle marketers.
Yeah. So that brings us to our last topic, and we've just got like a minute and a half left. Pricing. Competitive and sustainable. I know through my research and trying to get my books out on the market that you got to check and see what other books in your genre are selling for and kind of price it that way. What would be your best advice on this topic? And like I say, we just have like a minute left.
I would go back to research, and just like you said, you want to find your genre, your market segment, and your avenues for distribution as well as communication, because that'll tell you who you're talking to. And then there is data out there. So first, define your market. The Instagram folks or Facebook or newspaper ads, or what is the avenue? Then knowing who they are, demographics and income levels and age, you'll be able to find out their spend habits, average incomes. You'll be able to look at other genres that they should be buying based on your research, price those books out, and be flexible.
I took the easy way out, and I just went into Barnes & Noble and found where my book would fit on the shelf and went, okay, what are they pricing these at? And that's where I priced my book.
All right, if you don't want to do any more research than that, that's probably, you could save yourself about 25 hours. All right, back to work too, Diana.
Thank you so much for coming in, Bill.
You.
I really appreciate you coming in and giving us your wisdom. I know you've helped a lot of authors today.
I hope so.
I hope that in the future,
one life.
I hope in the future you can come back and join us again.
I'd love to for the invite. Thanks, Diana.
Thank you.
So much.
I appreciate you being here.